Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name remains Paul. Bless anywhere. So in this video we are going to learn how we can solve some statistical problems using RStudio. As you can see, this is the work area for RStudio. Now what we want to do is we want to learn how we can find the arithmetic mean, the variance, standard deviation and mean deviation of a set of data points. Like we have it in table 1 here. Table 1 is talking about the grade points average of some certain students in a university. These are the different grade points. They are like the class intervals in our table. They are actually classes. The class of 0 to 0.99, the class of 1 to 1.49, and so on, with their different ratings. And then we took their midpoints, the difference between the two, whether the midpoints, rather, we add the two ends, the two boundaries, and divide by 2. As we are taking the average of those 2 points, we add the two boundaries and divide by 2. These are the lower, these 0, 1, 1.50, 2.50, 3.50, and 4. They are the lower class boundaries, and these ones are the upper class boundaries. So we sum the two boundaries and divide by 2 to get the midpoints. We call the midpoints X. These are also called the class marks. And then these are the number of students having these grades. This number of students are the frequency. Now we want to learn how we can compute the arithmetic mean, the mean deviation, the standard deviation, and the variance. We are going to use R programming. Now we're going to use the simplest approach, the approach which we all know in our elementary statistics. Now from our elementary statistics, to find the arithmetic mean is very easy. How do we do that? To find the arithmetic mean, this is the formula. The arithmetic mean is you sum the column of containing the frequency and the class mark, and then divide by the sum of the frequency. This is the elementary approach, but we are going to use arrow code to solve this. Now let's go to our RStudio. And this is our work environment. I'm going to create a new script for this. Don't save. I'm going to create a new script. Okay. And this is a new script. Now what we are going to do is we are going to define the midpoints. Yes, we are going to define the midpoint. How do we do that? We create a vector for these midpoints, and I call the vector x. Say x equal to, I create a vector, and then I impute the values of x in that space. And then these are the values of x which I've written here. So I'm just going to copy it. Ctrl C, and then I go to my RStudio and paste it. So I've created a vector for x. The next thing is I create a vector for the frequency. Now I make sure that this is stored, so I run it. And then you can see that it is stored here. It's stored in the global environment as x. And then I'm going to create a vector for the frequency. I call it f. And then f is equal to, okay, I go back to my data points. I copy the frequency. And then I come back here and paste it. Yes, we have these two vectors now. I'm going to run this so it will be stored in the global environment. Yes, it is stored as f. So I have my important points. Now the next thing is I sum the columns according to the formula given to us here. The formula says you must create this column f times x, so you must multiply the frequency and the class marks. And then that's what I'm going to do exactly in my RStudio. Okay, let me see how many minutes I have left. I think we are going to continue in the next. Okay, now I'm going to multiply the f and the x vectors, and then I'll call it can give it any name there. You choose any dummy variable. So I'm going to call it let's say m. Let me call it m is equal to, I'll multiply it. I say f times multiplication, use star as multiplication, f times x. So this is my m, and then I run it. It is stored. So m is stored. These are the values of m here. You can see it here in the global environment. So I have f times x, and then by the formula says when you multiply it, you sum the whole of that column. So you sum everything in that column. Now let's go back to RStudio. Now this is the column of f times x. So m is now this 24, 186.8. These are different values. So m is a vector. So I'm going to sum all these values in this vector m. How do I do that? By using the sum function. Now I'm going to sum it by saying sum. Edit. Okay, sum m. So I'm just going to sum m, and then I run it. Now if you see, this is the sum below here. The sum is 4,000. So if you sum everything here, you get 4,000. So that is a sum. Now the next thing is to get the frequency. So we sum the frequency. This is the frequency is f. So I'm going to sum f. Sum f, and then I run it, so it will be stored. Yes, the sum of f is 1520. Then the next thing is, remember by the formula says when you sum the frequency and x column, you sum f, then you divide whatever you have. So I'm going to divide, and then I'm going to say the mean. I'm going to call it arith mean. Arith mean, that is arithmetic mean, is equal to the sum m divided by sum f. So I'm going to run it. So I'm going to print out my value, the arith mean. I'm going to run the arith mean and then see the solution. Now as you can see, the arithmetic mean is 2.631579. This is how we compute the arithmetic mean. So we have successfully computed the arithmetic mean. The next thing is to compute the mean deviation. We'll start with the mean deviation. Now let's go back to the formula. The mean deviation has a formula. Now this is the formula for the mean deviation. The mean deviation is you sum the absolute value of the deviations from the mean, and you sum the absolute deviation of the mean and divide it with the sum of the frequency. Now the numerator here is the deviation from the mean. Sum x minus x bar. X bar is the arithmetic mean. So we are going to subtract the mean from each data point, each class mark. So I'm going to do this on RStudio. Now how do we do this on RStudio? We first of all evaluate x minus x bar, and then after doing that, then we take the absolute value of it. After doing that, then we sum whatever we have. So let's go to RStudio. So we know our x here. This is our x column. So I'm going to define, let's say, y. to be equal to x minus arithmetic. So I'm going to copy it. Okay, so we have defined the deviation from the mean, that is x minus arithmetic. That is our y. So I'm going to run it and then store it. So it is stored now. So if you look at the values of y, let me print out y on this part. Now y, I run it. Now if you can, as you can see here, you see there are negative values here. I think 1, 2, 3 values are negative in the vector. So we are going to take the absolute value. The absolute value terminates any negativity. So that is the importance of the absolute value. So I'm going to take the absolute value of y. So we define that by using the absolute value function, abs, absolute value of y. I'm going to use a variable to define it. I'm going to assign it to a variable. Let's say y abs equal absolute value of y. Absolute value of y. Okay, then I'm going to run it. And then let us see how it will behave. Y abs run. Now as you can see, no negative value here again. All the negative values have disappeared because of the absolute value. So we have gotten this, we've gotten the absolute value now. The next thing is to sum that vector, sum every element in the vector. Now this is let's go to the Arrow Studio. So we sum y abs. So I'm going to copy y abs. And then I'm going to sum it. We still use the sum function. So I'm going to sum y abs. And then I run it. So it is stored. So as you can see, when we sum the y abs, the value we got is 8.005. Let's see if okay, so the value we got is 8.005. That is the sum of the whole of this y abs column, row rather. So we have gotten that, and we know the sum of the frequency, which is defined as sum f. So I'm going to divide the sum y abs by sum f. So Control C. So my mean deviation, mean div is equal to Control V, so sum y abs by sum f, that is the sum of the frequency. Control C, Control V, and then I run it. And then now I'm going to print y. It's already printed here. As you can see, the mean deviation is 0.0052 and so on. So there is very little deviation from the mean, meaning that the data is very close to being very correct and accurate. So we can still print it out here by copying this, Control C, pasting it, Control V, then we run it. So you can see the value is very consistent. So this is the mean deviation. We have successfully gotten the mean deviation. The next thing is we get the variance and standard deviation. How do we get the variance? This is the formula for the variance. Yes, the variance is you sum the square of the deviations from the mean and divide by the frequency. Here we don't need absolute value because the square terminates any negativity. So we just find, I think we have gotten, we can still use the value we got from the absolute value. Yes, and then we square it, and then we sum it and divide by the frequency. So that's exactly what we are going to do. So we've already gotten y halves, the absolute value. So I'm going to square this y halves. I'm going to square it, Ctrl C. So I'm going to define a variable u to be equal to u to be equal to y halves. I'm squaring it. So raised to power 2. So I square y halves and I call it u. So I run it. Then if I've gotten the square, the next thing is we've gotten the square, we've gotten this. The next thing is to sum it. So let us sum it. So I'm going to sum u. So sum u. Then I'm going to run it. So I get the sum of u, and then I'm going to divide it by frequency. So my standard deviation the variance. We have not gotten to standard deviation. The variance I'm going to call it var. Variance equal to sum u divided by sum f. So I'm going to run it. Yes, I've gotten my variance. Now I'm going to print var. It's already displayed here. This is the variance, as you can see. I'm going to print it here. var, and I run. Oh my god, let me see if I made. Okay, you see, our row code is very sensitive. So the first one was a capital letter. The first letter was uppercase, so I have to correct it. This is uppercase. var. I'm going to run it. Yes, we have the correct value. So you see that arrow code is case sensitive. So this is the value of the standard deviation. It still have a very small value, meaning that the deviations or the standard error is very small. That's very good. So we have gotten the I always mistake variance for standard deviation. Everything I'm talking about is the variance, not standard deviation. So the variance is this is the variance, the value we got for the variance, not standard deviation. So let us compute the standard deviation. The standard deviation is simply, by formula, it is simply the square root of the variance. So we have to take the square root of our variance to get the standard deviation. So the standard STD, standard deviation, is equal to, I'll use the square root function, sqrt, square root of var square root of the variance. So run it, and then we can see that the standard deviation is 0.093. I'm going to run it here. std dev, and I run it. So we've gotten the standard deviation, which is this. Thank you. Please subscribe to my channel if you like the video and press the notification button for more videos. Thank you very much.